Not just positivity, but divine faith. 7 prophetic ways it sustains you in life's storms. In the quaint English village of St. Mary's, shadows danced and flickered as Thomas, a humble baker, thought about the extraordinary. Was there truly a force stronger than dread? His world lay in heavenly bread, a bakery steeped in love, kneaded with devotion, blessed by ages of tradition. But as economic storms brewed, whispers of bankruptcy chilled the air like a winter's frost. Thomas felt it deep in his bones, yet he yearned for something more than mere hope. He craved divine faith. Every evening, after the last loaf was wrapped, he would light a candle in the chapel dedicated to St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes. The flickering flame cast warm glows that seemed to dance with unearthly energy. As he whispered prayers, an inexplicable peace washed over him, stirring a sense of faith in the face of despair. Even so, doubt crept in with the village gossip, a lurking specter that threatened to snuff out both his resolve and dreams. Then came the Sunday service, filled with the sacred aroma of incense and a choir singing notes of ancient hope. As the words of the visiting pastor swept across the congregation, "Faith can sustain you even in life's fiercest storms," Thomas felt as if the heavens had opened. A radiant light filled the chapel, wrapping around him like a divine embrace. It was a moment he would never forget, a profound awakening that sparked something deep within him. Fueled by the pastor's message, Thomas made a fateful decision, channeling that newfound faith into an investment that danced on the edge of recklessness. Surely it would be the lifeline his bakery needed. But as he left the meeting, a foreboding dread clawed at his heart, heavy like a shroud. A handshake turned cold, a promise untethered. This was risky business, and as reality crashed down, shadows began to close in. It was then, in the dank alley behind the bakery, that the unbelievable happened. A stranger emerged, cloaked in a soft golden light that illuminated the darkness. His words pierced the air, assuring Thomas of God's unwavering protection. "Blessed are you, child of faith, for you shall not falter. Light shall guide your way." Goosebumps prickled on Thomas' skin, and tears of warmth pooled in his eyes. It was a promise made not by man, but by the Creator himself. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Empowered, Thomas rallied his family and friends, calling them to an impromptu prayer meeting that felt electric, charged with expectancy. Voices rose in fervent worship, weaving a tapestry of divine supplication. As they prayed, a spirit of unity surged through them, tongues echoing with praises. The villagers had stood apart, but now a palpable sense of belonging began to forge their bonds anew. Hope seeped into the cracks of their hearts, casting out fear like light dispelling shadows. Changes stirred among them, unexpected blessings popping like wildflowers after rain. Yet, as doubts lingered like thick fog, Thomas couldn't shake the question. Would they emerge stronger, or would their unity once again be shaken? With the flicker of divine hope igniting in his heart, the future glistened with promise, yet chaos loomed closer than ever before. Could faith triumph? Would it withstand the growing storm? Thomas awoke to a gray dawn, the air heavy with uncertainty. The bakery, once a haven of warmth and laughter, felt burdened by the weight of those doubts. As he opened the doors to heavenly bread, the familiar aroma of yeast and fresh dough mingled with a lingering apprehension. He set to work, kneading the dough with hands that trembled slightly, mindful of the prayerful whispers still echoing in his heart. Each loaf was crafted with love, but accompanied by a gnawing concern. What if he had misjudged his investment?
What if the hope and faith he rallied to could not withstand the pressures of reality? As he placed the first batch in the oven, the heat enveloped him like a hug, reminding him that warmth could still emerge amidst the coolness surrounding his spirit. At noon, the village square buzzed. Customers flowed in and out of his bakery, their eyes reflecting stories of their own struggles. Thomas greeted each one with a sunny smile, infusing his words with the faith he clung to. A kind woman spoke of her son in need of a job. An elderly man lamented the fading vitality of his garden. Rather than focus solely on his own troubles, Thomas saw their burdens and felt a stirring within him, a call to share the light he had received. "Have faith," he declared, more to himself than anyone else. "We may be in a storm, but together we can weather it." And just like that, the bakery transformed. It became a sanctuary, a place where burdens were shared and prayers were exchanged. Each conversation deepened the fabric of their community, and as Thomas served bread, he felt something shift. Yet, doubt had a way of creeping in, often at the most inopportune moments. Late one evening, after the last customer had left, Thomas sat at the worn wooden table, a single candle flickering before him. He wrestled with the wild whirlwind of fear and faith. Shadows leapt across the walls, taunting his wavering spirit. "What if you fail? What if they all turn away?" they seemed to whisper. Suddenly, a memory flared to life, the golden light of the stranger who had spoken to him in the alley.
Light shall guide your way. He closed his eyes and breathed deep, surrendering to the peace that promised to hover over him. The candle's flame flickered, and he imagined it as a beacon, guiding not only himself but the entire village through this tumultuous period. As days turned into weeks, the prayer meetings evolved into something remarkable. Their faith bound them together, stronger than any chains of fear or doubt. They shared provisions, sometimes offering assistance where someone was struggling, reminding one another that God met them in their need. Thomas watched as his bakery flourished, not just in sales, but in the community it nurtured. But just when it seemed as if the dark clouds were dissipating, the winds shifted yet again. A letter arrived one fateful morning, bearing a seal he had come to dread. The investors were breathing down his neck, and he needed more than the goodwill of the villagers. Panic seeped into his heart, but it was swiftly quelled by the prayerful chorus of his family and friends. In their gathering later that day, as voices lifted in praise, Thomas felt a stirring of divine anticipation. A bold thought emerged, daring him to believe that perhaps this storm could lead to something miraculous. What if the very fears that sought to upend him were the raw materials for a deeper faith? With a heart full of expectation, he whispered to the crowd gathered around him, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" They echoed back their agreement, a collective spirit rising higher and higher, a symphony of faith blossoming amidst despair. But Thomas knew a deeper test awaited him. As he faced the challenges ahead, what divine mysteries would unfold? How would this journey shape not just him, but the entire village of St. Mary's? The stage was set for a revelation, one that could alter the course of their lives forever. The morning sun peeked through the clouds, casting a gentle gold across the village. It felt as if the heavens were declaring a new dawn, filled with promise. Thomas stood outside his bakery, a fresh batch of loaves cooling behind him. The sweet scent wafted through the streets, mingling with the laughter and chatter of his neighbors, who had begun to gather around him. With a heart buoyed by hope, Thomas welcomed each villager with open arms. He listened intently as they shared tales of struggle and triumph, comforted by the reality that they were together in this storm. He could feel the spirit of unity growing, an invisible thread weaving their lives into a tapestry of faith and resilience. "Remember, my friends," he said, his voice warm yet firm, "each loaf of bread I make carries a piece of our collective hope. It is our faith that nourishes us more than the food itself." His words seemed to resonate deeply, igniting sparks of understanding in their hearts. Yet, even as he spoke of hope, the gnawing anxiety clung to his spirit. The letter from the investors loomed. heavy in the back of his mind. What if this community strength was not enough? What if he could not meet the deadline? Thoughts of failure threatened to overshadow the joy that filled the bakery. As twilight descended, Thomas took a moment to reflect. Sitting at that same worn wooden table, he lit the candle once more. The flickering flame cast dancing shadows around the room, reminding him of the light that had guided him before. Sinking into prayer, he hoped for a sign, something to assure him that he was on the right path. Then a soft knock at the door broke his moment of reverie. It was Sarah, an elderly widow from the village. With a frail but determined smile, she stepped inside, the warmth of her presence instantly radiating. "I brought you something, dear," she said, revealing a flask of honey. "This is from my garden. You've given us so much, Thomas. It's time we return the favor." At that moment, Thomas felt the raw power of community. The gesture, simple yet profound, sent waves of gratitude through him. Sarah's kindness wasn't just a gift, it was a tangible representation of their shared faith. The honey symbolized sweetness even in trials, a reminder that God provides even when it seems impossible. Later that evening, as the last of the sunlight faded, Thomas gathered his friends once more. He shared Sarah's gift, and together they feasted in the candlelight. They laughed, sang hymns, and spoke words of encouragement. It was a vivid display of divine connection, a community dance of faith amidst uncertainty. The night wore on with stories intertwined, moments of silence interspersed with laughter, and an air of expectation that filled the room. Thomas felt an inexplicable peace settle over him, whispering that all would be well. Hope flowed through his veins, lifting him above the worries that had once consumed him. Yet, as the stars twinkled outside, a new thought flickered to life in his mind. What if this outpouring of generosity was just the beginning? What if there were greater provisions and blessings waiting for them beyond their current trials? He turned to his gathered friends and spoke this thought aloud. What if our tribulations are meant to open doors we have yet to see? The room stirred with whispered ponderings, hearts ignited with curiosity and excitement. And as he breathed in their shared faith, he could sense that something monumental was on the horizon, a divine intervention that would draw them closer together as they ventured into the unknown. Would they see a miraculous way forward, or would the storm reveal hidden treasures nestled within the winds of their trials? The answers lay ahead, shrouded in the mists of faith, waiting for them to take a step into the future. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the village transformed under a tapestry of stars. The cool night air brought a refreshing reprieve, yet within Thomas a warmth blossomed. He knew deep down that their journey was just beginning, and that the night held more than just darkness. It held divine promises. The next morning, Thomas woke early, the soft glow of dawn painting the sky in hues of pink and lavender. Lively birds flitted about, singing hymns of praise that echoed in his heart. He felt invigorated, almost as if the night had whispered secrets meant only for him. Today was a day to act, not merely to wait. Thomas gathered ingredients from the bakery, his hands moving swiftly as he prepared not only bread, but something special, a recipe for hope. He set aside extra loaves, intending to give them to those in need, a tangible expression of the blessings he had received. His heart buzzed with anticipation. He could sense the community's strength growing within him. When Thomas stepped outside, the village was still waking up. It was a dance of daily life. People hurried about, some readying their own shops, others tending to their gardens. He approached a group of children playing by the well, their laughter ringing like chimes in the breeze. "Good morning, young ones," he called out cheerfully. "Who wants to help me share some warmth today?" Their eyes sparkled with mischief as they bounded towards him.
Within moments, Thomas and the children set out into the village, delivering loaves of warm bread, each one wrapped in simple cloth. With each offering, he shared a message of hope, a reminder that they were stronger together. The taste of freshly baked bread mingled with smiles and grateful hearts filled the air, creating an atmosphere of joy and light. As he moved along, Thomas paused in front of the old oak tree. This landmark had borne witness to many moments in their lives. He reflected on the roots that kept it grounded, much like their shared faith in each other. Closing his eyes for a moment, he whispered a prayer for strength, guidance, and unity. Just then, he felt a gentle nudge against his leg. It was Henry, a quiet boy from the village with timid eyes. "Mr. Thomas," he piped up, "do you think, what if our bread can help more people? What if we could feed the whole village?" A rich smile spread across Thomas's face. "Henry, what a glorious thought! Our faith can inspire something beautiful, can't it?" Together they brainstormed, the flicker of ideas igniting hope in their hearts. The two decided to gather the villagers that evening to share a simple meal of bread and honey. They would invite anyone who had little, anyone who was weary, to come together, breaking bread and sharing stories of courage. The notion glowed like embers in Thomas's heart, signaling a larger purpose ahead. By dusk, the bakery radiated warmth and laughter as villagers came together in anticipation. The candlelight flickered, casting joyful shadows. Thomas felt the air thick with expectation. Every smile and every greeting thrummed with faith. As he stood to speak, a hush fell over the crowd. His heart raced, not with fear, but with excitement. What if we shared not just bread, but our hearts?
And our hopes? What if this was the beginning of something much bigger? He declared that each loaf would carry not just the essence of their work, but their dreams and aspirations. Anticipation crackled in the air. What miracles awaited them as they pooled their resources and faith? Would their acts of love ripple out further than they ever imagined? The answers hung like stars above, twinkling with divine possibilities. As the candles flickered, casting a golden glow over the gathered villagers, Thomas lifted his gaze to the faces around him. Each one was marked with stories, burdens, and a flicker of hope. He took a deep breath, feeling the presence of something greater than himself. This was not merely a gathering, it was a communion of hearts ready to share their journeys. "Tonight," he began, "we are not just sharing bread, we are sharing our lives, our struggles. Each loaf we hold is a testament to our faith and unity." His voice rang out, filling the intimate space. The crowd nodded in agreement, a palpable energy weaving through them, a collective heartbeat resonating with purpose. Elder Mary, her hands lined with the years of wisdom, interjected, "And it's not only the bread, it's the warmth of our community. It's the love that binds us together." Her words wrapped around them like a warm shawl, drawing forth murmurs of agreement and soft smiles. As they broke the loaves together, laughter mingled with tales of resilience and joy. A widow spoke of how her garden bloomed after she prayed over it, while a father recounted the moment his children found joy in the simplest of things. Thomas listened intently, feeling the weight of their stories weave a tapestry of divine grace in the room. Suddenly, Henry stood up, his small frame filled with newfound courage. "I want to share too." The room quieted as all eyes turned to him. "I thought I was too small to help, but here I see that my helping hand can mean a lot." He pointed to the bread in front of him. "It's like how Jesus shared fish and loaves. If we keep sharing, we can help even more." A hush fell as his words washed over them like a gentle breeze. Thomas saw tears glisten in many eyes, including his own. Here was the embodiment of faith, a child reminding them all of the miraculous strength they carried when they came together. As the night stretched on, it became clear the meal was more than sustenance. It transformed into a sacred gathering of souls, igniting hearts with the fire of divine love. They shared prayers, laughter, and songs that rose like incense to the heavens, binding them closer in faith. Yet, as joyous as the night was, Thomas felt a stirring within himself. There was a subtle nudge from the Spirit, a whisper hinting at what might be next. He sensed this moment, this gathering, was only the foundation. Something monumental loomed on the horizon. When the last loaf was shared, and the laughter began to settle into soft exchanges of gratitude, Thomas's heart swelled with a divine wonder. Could they expand this gathering? Could they extend their hands beyond the village, touching lives they hadn't thought possible? As if sensing his thoughts, Elder Mary leaned closer. "Thomas, my dear, we're on to something here, aren't we? This is more than a meal." Her voice carried the weight of prophetic insight. "This is a divine invitation to spread even further, isn't it? To dream bigger." His heart raced. Her words resonated deep within him, sparking visions of tomorrow. More gathering, more hearts ignited, and a ripple of love that could reach beyond their wildest imaginations. But oh, what would it take? What steps lay ahead in the pursuit of these dreams of abundance? And as the night drew to a close, under the blanket of stars, the community, once vibrant with joy, moved into the uncertainty of waiting. They were suspended between what had been and what could be. Each seeker, each heart beating with possibility, was left pondering. What next steps were they being called to take? Would they dare to step into the unknown, trusting that divine plans awaited them just beyond the horizon? As the flickering candles cast playful shadows upon the walls, the villagers lingered, hearts still warmed by the shared stories and the laughter that danced in the air. Thomas looked around, seeing familiar faces now dotted with sparks of newfound dreams. Elder Mary's words found a permanent home in his mind. To dream bigger. How was he to begin this daunting task? The village square slowly emptied, yet a few remained, unable to shake the feeling that something more was stirring in their midst. A hushed anticipation lingered, as if the very earth beneath their feet was stirring with promise. "Thomas," a voice broke through the quiet. It was Sarah, a young woman known for her gentle spirit. "What if we reached out beyond our village? What if we took our love, our faith, and shared it with others?" Her eyes shone with sincerity, and Thomas could see the flicker of possibility reflecting in them. He smiled, grateful for her courage to voice what they were all feeling. "Yes, Sarah, but how do we even begin?" The silence stretched, each heart pondering the challenge ahead. Then Henry piped up again, his small voice ringing with confidence. "Could we gather more bread? Could we bake that bread together and give it to those in need?" The notion reverberated through the gathering like a chord struck on a harp, resonating in their spirits. It sparked something deep within Thomas, but he knew more than just bread was required. The villagers needed encouragement, a renewed sense of purpose woven into every loaf. "Perhaps we could host community days. We could invite everyone from the surrounding areas," he proposed. "Activities to uplift spirits, share faith, and spread love." The thought took flight. Excitement sparked across faces, eyes brightening as visions unfurled. Soon voices began to
rise, each one sharing ideas, games, songs, storytelling, and even a sharing circle to express gratitude, struggles, and triumphs. The rhythm of hope began to beat faster, drowning out the whispers of doubt. Yet one question lingered like a shadow, hovering on the edges of their discourse. How would they gather the resources needed? Would they have enough flour, supplies? "Every seed planted grows with faith," Elder Mary assured them, her tone both wise and gently commanding. "Let us not measure our abilities by what we currently possess. Let us remember the little boy with the loaves and fish." Thomas felt uplifted. He realized they were not searching for wealth, but for willingness.
The abundance of spirit was far greater than physical limitations. As they delved deeper into their plans, laughter mingled with fervent faith. They began to sketch outlines of a gathering that would encompass the heart of their mission. The potential for transformation hung in the air like sweet incense. But just as joy surged, a flood of fear threaded through Thomas's thoughts. What if their efforts fell short? What if they didn't reach enough souls? He could feel the tension building, a whisper of doubt creeping into the light. Faith is not without fear. It's the courage to act amidst it, Mary reminded him softly, as if reading his heart. Settling into contemplation, Thomas reflected on how faith demanded bold steps, especially when surrounded by uncertainty. The journey wasn't always clear, each moment calling for reliance on the divine guide. What awaited them ahead remained a mystery wrapped in grace. As they parted ways that evening, hearts were alight with purpose. Each person was filled with anticipation and wonder. They had ignited something powerful, but would their flame endure as they moved forward into this unknown destiny? One thing was certain, the path toward divine abundance lay before them, veiled yet inviting. The community stood poised on the edge of a miraculous journey. What awaited them just a step beyond the horizon? Their faith would soon unfold. The next day dawned bright and clear, a gentle breeze playing among the trees like a divine whisper. Thomas awoke with a sense of eager anticipation bubbling within him. He rose early, stepping outside his small cottage and inhaling the sweet scent of dew-laden grass. It felt like the universe was breathing hope right alongside him. As he made his way to the village square, thoughts of yesterday's gathering danced in his mind. The words of Elder Mary echoed softly. Each moment spent in reflection was another step closer to divine purpose. What would today hold? Gathering as many villagers as possible for their plans was no small task. Thomas hurried through the narrow paths, greeting neighbors and friends, inviting them with a warm smile. "We're gathering to channel our dreams into action," he said, excitement threading through each word. The villagers responded with nods and murmurs of enthusiasm. Sarah was among the first to arrive, her spirit as bright as the morning.
"I have an idea!" she exclaimed, her hands clasped together in delight. "What if we started today with a prayer circle in the square? We can ask for guidance and strength as we begin this journey." Thomas's heart swelled. "That's perfect, Sarah. A foundation built on prayer will only strengthen our mission." Soon, the square was filled with the joyous chatter of the community, hearts blending in purpose. They gathered in a circle beneath a grand oak tree which stood majestic and wise, its branches stretching toward the heavens. As Elder Mary led the prayer, a sense of calm washed over them. Each word spoken was like an anchor, grounding them amidst their hopes and fears. "Lord, guide us in our steps. Let our efforts be fruitful, fueled by your love and grace," she prayed. Thomas felt a warm glow enveloping him, as if divine encouragement was washing over the gathered souls. They were a collective heart, pounding in unison with a shared mission. Together, they made declarations of faith, voices rising like a melody of hope. "Let us remember, it's not just positivity we seek," Thomas thought. "It's the kind of faith that holds fast during storms." After the prayer, the villagers began brainstorming, filling the air with animated discussions. Lists of ingredients to gather, fun activities to organize, and names of those to invite spiraled around the square. Each suggestion built upon the last, creating a tapestry of shared dreams. Yet questions swirled among them like leaves in the wind. Would they manage to gather enough resources? Could they truly widen their circle beyond the village? With each question, faith flickered, sometimes dimmed by uncertainty. Henry's small voice broke through. "What if we asked the farmers nearby? They might have extra supplies." In that moment, they grasped another piece of divine wisdom. They were not alone in this mission. The surrounding community was ready to lend a hand. Ideas blossomed like flowers in the spring sun. As they organized themselves, laughter burst forth, mingling with spiritual commitment. Thomas marveled at how collective faith could transform the ordinary into something extraordinary. This mission wasn't merely an event, it was a call to something grander. Yet a thread of doubt still lingered in Thomas's heart. What if their intentions didn't materialize? What if they failed? Elder Mary, sensing his unrest, caught his eye. Remember, Thomas, God calls us to act, not to succeed. Each small gesture rooted in faith can ripple through lives beyond our sight. The words sank into Thomas's heart, stirring something deep and reassuring. They would put forth their efforts, and God would nurture the seeds they planted. And so they worked, laughter punctuating their labor. With every bag of flour collected, every fruit harvested, and every prayer uttered, they felt their faith intertwine, their spirits lifting higher. Just as their plans became real, an unexpected visitor arrived in the village. Would this new arrival spark even greater transformation? The horizon beckoned with new mysteries waiting to unfold. The sun climbed
higher, casting a golden hue across the village square. The vibrant laughter and excited chatter filled the air with an energy that felt palpable. It was a beautiful day, perfect for both work and connection. Yet all eyes turned toward the path as the unexpected visitor approached. A stranger appeared at the edge of the square, dust swirling around her feet. She looked weary but carried an aura of quiet strength. No one had seen her before, yet her presence seemed to cast a warm glow over the gathered villagers, almost igniting a spark of curiosity and intrigue. "Who is she?" whispered Sarah, nudging Thomas with gentle urgency. "I'm not sure, but something feels special about her," Thomas replied, as he took a step forward, their shared anticipation making his heart race. As the woman drew closer, the villagers noticed her deep brown eyes, filled with a knowing spark. She smiled, and it felt like a soft breeze sweeping through them. "Greetings, loving community," she said, her voice resonating like a comforting song. "I've traveled a long way, seeking hope and purpose, and I could sense that this village radiates light." Miriam's words hung in the air, striking a chord with each heart present. It was as if she had peered into the depths of their struggles and dreams, illuminating their collective faith. Encouraged by curiosity, Thomas took a step closer, inviting her into their circle. "Miriam, welcome. We're beginning a great mission," he said, gesturing at the gathered villagers. "We seek to strengthen our community and reach out to those beyond our village." Miriam nodded knowingly, her gaze drifting among the faces around her. "I sense that your hearts are full of purpose, but there is a deeper journey ahead. Let us first pray together. The plans you weave depend profoundly on the guidance of the Holy Spirit." The villagers, understanding the gravity of this moment, resumed their circle. They joined hands, a tapestry of faith woven together. Miriam led the prayer, her voice captivating all those present. "Holy Spirit, envelop us. Open our eyes to the unseen. Refresh our spirits and ignite our passions. Let us be vessels for your love." With each heartfelt word, a stillness settled into the square. It felt as if the Lord himself had entered, breathing peace into the atmosphere. Thomas felt the tension of doubt slip away, replaced by a bubbling trust. As they closed the prayer, Thomas turned to Miriam. "What do you mean by a deeper journey?" he asked, curiosity glowing in his eyes. Miriam smiled with wisdom. "Each of you will face trials, but through these storms you will harness faith in ways you've never imagined. Trust in what you cannot see, for it is in the uncertainty that God's plan unfolds." The villagers looked at each other, contemplation deepening their gathered energy. Miriam's presence had shifted something profound. It appeared they were not merely gathering resources, they were embarking on a journey of connection, reliance on divine guidance. Suddenly, Henry, who had been silent until now, blurted out, "What if we fail? What if we fall short in our mission?" The air thickened with uncertainty, hearts matching Henry's anxious tone. But Miriam gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "Ah, dear boy, remember this. Faith is not about succeeding in your own eyes. It's about trusting in God's infinite love. Each step with Him is a miracle. Even what seems like failure may turn into growth beyond your understanding." Her words resonated deeply, stirring something within each listener. A new sense of responsibility filled Thomas's heart. "We can't let fear overshadow our purpose," he said, glancing around at the villagers who now seemed a bit more resolute. "Let's open ourselves to God's work." Miriam beamed with approval, her spirit illuminating the collective encouragement that filled the square like sunlight breaking through clouds. A shared determination washed over them, igniting faith behind their mission. But as they began to discuss next steps, a sudden gust swept through, rustling the leaves above. It felt like a whisper, tugging at their hearts in a way that beckoned them closer to the divine. "Tomorrow will bring new challenges and revelations," Miriam reminded them, her gaze sweeping over the circle. "Together we'll navigate the tides of uncertainty." What storm awaited them next, and how would they emerge transformed? The question lingered, drawing their hearts into the unknown with vibrant anticipation. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the village square, the villagers felt an electric charge in the air. Miriam's presence was a fresh breeze, stirring something deep within each person's heart. They weren't just hearing her words, they were absorbing them, like soil soaking up the morning dew. "Tomorrow," she continued, "we must prepare our hearts for the journey ahead. Each of you carries a spark of divine potential. Together, let us nurture that flame." Thomas caught her gaze, feeling a mix of calm and stirring excitement. This was more than a mission. They were being called to a deeper purpose. Miriam's mention of trials lingered in the air, heavy yet rich with promise. Her voice broke through the whispers of doubt that clung to some. "The storms will come, but know this, your faith will be your anchor." Her words rang truer than any others had in a long while. The villagers, inspired by her presence, gathered close as she began to share stories from her own journey. "When I faced my hardships, I learned to turn my gaze upward, to trust the Almighty in ways I never thought possible. Each challenge revealed revelations. Each setback provided opportunities for transformation." With rapt attention, they leaned in. One by one, they began to share their own stories, their struggles, their moments of doubt, and the glimmers of hope that had found them in the darkest times. Sarah spoke about her battle with uncertainty as she sought to care for her family. "It felt endless," she said, "but God always provided a light when I thought I was lost. I just had to be willing to listen." Nods of agreement and murmurs of understanding echoed around the circle. They were a community of seekers, bound together by shared experiences of pain, hope, and faith. The humility of their truths touched Miriam, sparking an even greater connectedness. "Faith moves mountains," Miriam insisted. "When we rely solely on our understanding, we impose limits on the limitless God. The more we lean into His love, the more we recognize the depths of our own hearts, flawed yet beautiful." As night fell and stars began to twinkle above, the village square transformed into a sacred space where love lingered. The atmosphere was infused with not only their collective hope, but a faith that felt almost tangible. "Let this night be a foundation," Miriam continued, "a launch into your next chapter. Remember, it is not just positivity we seek. We crave divine faith to sustain us long after the sun has set. Each challenge you face will become a stepping stone toward the glory of knowing Him." In all the warmth of the gathering, a cool breeze suddenly swept through. The villagers looked at one another, anticipating what lay ahead. Would they, like Miriam, emerge equipped to face storms with a heart full of faith?
"Your task," she said, her tone solemn yet encouraging, "is not to fear the storms, but to be the light in them. Each of you has the power to transform fear into faith that moves. What God starts, He finishes." An awe-inspiring silence enveloped the circle, leaving them breathless with possibilities. But as they stood ready to embrace tomorrow, a subtle whisper made its way to Thomas's heart. It echoed the question that stood on his lips, a question begging to be asked. What if we discover that our greatest challenges are not just obstacles, but our path to divine strength? His words hovered in the night air, igniting curiosity and reflection among the villagers. They were standing at the precipice of a remarkable journey, one filled with the unknown. Would they embrace the unfolding of their deeper faith? And what revelations awaited them in the days to come? The dawn broke like a glorious proclamation over St. Mary's, casting its warm light over the gathered villagers. The air sparkled with anticipation, infused with the hope of a new day. Thomas awoke feeling a surge of expectation. What would today bring? He stepped outside, breathing in the crisp morning air, his heart racing with purpose. As he arrived at the square, he was met by familiar faces, vibrant with energy and determination. They had come together, united in faith, ready to forge ahead. "Let's remember who we are," he called, his voice warm yet firm. "We are a community built on faith, destined for great things." The villagers gathered close, buzzing with excitement. Today, they wouldn't just plan, they would act. They joined hands in a circle, and Miriam's calming presence hovered among them, just as the golden sun rose higher. "Before we embark on our journey, let us call
"Upon the Spirit once more," she said, a gentle power woven into her words. As they prayed, the atmosphere thickened with divine sensation. Thomas felt every heart connect, their hopes and dreams swirling together like butterflies dancing in a field. Each declaration of faith lifted them higher, wrapping around their collective mission. "Let's not just dream, but let's turn those dreams into reality," Sarah exclaimed as she shared ideas for their upcoming gathering day, her voice bursting with excitement. "We can make this more than just a simple act of kindness." "Absolutely," shouted Henry, his eyes gleaming with eagerness. "Let's create an event that spreads warmth, using our gifts for those who need it most." A chorus of agreement erupted, voices raised, creating a melody of intention that wove through the square. As ideas flowed like sweet honey, the bustling energy transformed. They divided tasks. The baker would create an abundance of bread. The farmers would gather fruits and vegetables, while others scrambled to spread the word throughout neighboring villages. The mission wasn't just about food. It would be an outpouring of love, faith, and connection that would reach far beyond their own hearts. Though the day was filled with labor, doubt occasionally crept in. Yet, every time the worry began to surface, Miriam's words echoed in Thomas's mind. Faith is not about succeeding in your own eyes. As Thomas kneaded dough and rolled pastries, he surrendered each moment to the divine. Evening fell gracefully upon St. Mary's, casting hues of orange and violet over the square. Warm lanterns flickered, illuminating smiling faces as the villagers began to gather by the long table adorned with their efforts. Every loaf, every piece of produce, each item was an offering of faith. Thomas stood at the head of the table, filled with gratitude as he watched the village come together, enveloped in warmth and connection. "Tonight," he began, "we are not just sharing provisions, but sowing seeds of hope. Let's break bread, share stories, and inspire one another." The air buzzed with giggles, spirited conversations, and prayer. They broke loaves and took turns sharing testimonies, reminding each other of the goodness even amidst hardships. As he served bread, Thomas watched tears of joy glisten in the eyes of his neighbors.
Stories flowed like rivers, each one building upon the last. Friendship, resilience, divine encounters. Miriam's presence was a quiet beacon. As the night wore on, she gently nudged conversations toward prayer, reminding everyone that they were vessels of divine love. This gathering, she proclaimed, is just the beginning. Allow the light of your love to ripple outward beyond these walls. With hearts emboldened, they began to dream even bigger. Elder Mary spoke of generosity beyond their borders, the possibility of extending invitations to neighboring villages, sharing love and faith with all in need. A wave of excitement surged through the crowd, every face lighting up with newfound purpose. "Let's reach out," Thomas urged. "Let's make this a movement of kindness that echoes through every heart." As laughter mingled with prayers, sparks of hope ignited throughout.
The atmosphere. The villagers envisioned a greater gathering, a festival of faith where they could unite not just for nourishment but for transformative love, inspiring all who tread their paths. The journey had only begun, bursting with potential. Just as the final lantern was lit, a sudden wind rustled the leaves of the great oak standing resolute nearby. The air vibrated with promise, as if the universe celebrated alongside them. What awaited them remained a mystery, yet they all felt the pull of divine strength guiding them onward. This was a moment etched in time, a testament to faith's power to uplift communal hearts amid uncertainty. As they closed the night in prayer, each person found a renewed sense of courage igniting within. They were not just individuals, they were a tapestry of faith woven together by love. In that sacred moment, Thomas knew they had forged something magnificent. Their struggles would not define them. Their faith would illuminate the path ahead. With hearts brimming with purpose, they prepared to step boldly into whatever storms lay ahead, anchored by love and guided by hope. And so, filled with conviction, Thomas raised his voice one last time. "Together we can weather any storm, for in him we are not just conquerors, we are transformed. Darmam numanes." The villagers erupted in applause and cheers, their hearts racing with expectation. They stood collectively on the brink of a beautiful journey, propelled by faith, ready to embrace all that lay ahead. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive faith stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is more important than you know. Comment with your reactions and testimonies about this powerful ending. We want to hear how faith has transformed your life. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this divine manifestation. You need to show your love for the community to remind everyone that together we can stand against the storms of life. Don't wait even one more second. Share now.